How do we compare the point guard situations from last year to this year, especially after the Dennis Schroder acquisition? We'll get to it today. Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
Thanks for making Locked On Hornets your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods. That includes YouTube. Doug Branson is here, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Go check out the Substack. Evan Hale also helping produce every episode behind the scenes, and he's out in front of the scenes on everyhornetsboxscore.com, always contributing. I'm Walker Mehl. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Sports Radio 92.7 FM. Doug, just a round of applause for you. You did a great job on the solo episode. The people needed an episode to break down the Dennis Schroder acquisition. In fact, the great Chris McClain of the critically acclaimed, formerly Mac Attack, currently Mac and Bone show, first thing he said to me when I saw him on Monday in the side studio, I walk in, he said, "What gives, man? Dennis Schroder not emergency pod worthy enough for you? Doug is the only one that can give us the Dennis Schroder breakdown." I was on my way to the mountains. You know, my mom lives up there. Olivia's mom lives up there. So we're going to do the mom thing up in the mountains. And then Jeff Peterson said, and I'm trading for Dennis Schroder. We're going to get a grown up at the point guard spot. I'm glad that you were there to break it all down. 8,000 views or something like that. People were starving for some, Schroder news, baby.
They were starving for some Schroeder news, and I gave it to them. I got Schroedy with it. Thanks to Mac. Thanks to you for letting me gobble up all of those views. Yummy, yummy. Appreciate it. Yeah. I love to take all of the glory for myself. Love that.
It helps me, though. So really, you're just doing work for me as well, which I also appreciate.
Well, Jeff Peterson waits for no one. I haven't left this office in months since the LaMelo Ball trade. I've left for...
Oh, you're still there? Okay.
No, I don't go to shower. I don't go to talk to the baby anymore. I mean, Jeff Peterson, he's just been wheeling and dealing too much. You can't. Now, but there's one thing that I left for, and it was to go out to the mail to get this beauty right here. If you're listening on the audio podcast, I'm holding up in front of my face the 1999-2000 Charlotte Hornets Media Guide. And why I point this one out is because I have not been able to find this little puppy on eBay for many, many months. I've started a collection of media guides, and I'm only missing two. I'm missing this one now, no longer, and the 2001-2002 Charlotte Hornets Media Guide, the final media guide before they moved to New Orleans, but covering my favorite Hornets team of all time, the 01-02 team that almost made the Eastern Conference Finals. And guess what? That one is now on the way as well, so I will complete my set soon.
No way. Okay, so that's excellent. I'm glad that you're getting it. I'm glad that you were able to find this one as well. How much did that one set you back? Hundreds and hundreds of dollars, I'm sure, for this ancient, beautiful artifact that currently is held by the Doug Branson at this point. How many hundreds of dollars did it set you back?
Great condition, by the way. Sometimes you never know what you're going to get sometimes from eBay, but no, the corners look great. I mean, I'm not, putting these in plastic. I'm definitely reading these, but great condition. No, did not set me back too much. You'd be surprised to know. Just a cool $20 on this one. Okay. But that 0102, I have a sordid history with that 0102 on eBay because the only one that existed for a long time on eBay, this guy wanted like $40 for it. And I said, no way, $40. I'm not paying $40 for a Charlotte Hornets media guide. So I finally found one that popped up for another $20. So that's 2 for 1. That's 20 and 20. But no, I'm not paying $40. I even messaged the guy. I'm like, look, I will give, because you can do a little haggle, a little waggle on eBay. Yeah. I'm down for that. So I said, listen, I will give you $25 for it. It's more than I've paid for any of them, including the inaugural one, the 1998-89, the first one. Like, how rare. That's from the 80s. And it was in great condition. I didn't pay $25 for that one. I said, I'll pay you $25. He said, will not budge a single cent on the 01-02 Charlotte Hornets media guide. I said, that's insane, sir. Goodbye.
Yeah. It had to be the principle of it all. One, so you really did message this guy and say
I did.
That
I wanted it.
That's how you. What I also like too is that this is the Holy Grail, if you will, to complete the set. But $40 is too much for the Holy Grail.
No, because listen, I am a Hornets fan, and I was collecting these, but at the same time, This is about supply and demand. And now you may hear that and say, well, he had the supply and you had the demand. There was only one on eBay and it was $40. But here's the thing. I don't think many people, the reason there's only one is because I don't think there are many people knocking down the door for the 01-02 Charlotte Hornets media guide. So, if I'm selling that thing, I'm taking whatever I can get. And now he just lost business to someone that came in and undercut him.
That sounds an awful lot like a Hornets stray. Sounds like you need to go to the Twitter shed.
It's not the Lakers. I mean, come on, look, I'm a sicko. I can say this. I've been in the trenches forever. Okay, but come on. This is not, Lakers memorabilia from the 1970s that we're talking about. Okay, this is Charlotte Hornets Media Guide 01-02. Okay,
yeah. Come on. Let me dust off the Hornets stray meme I like putting out there. As long as we're talking about Hornets memorabilia to recognize the turn of the millennium, how about this, baby? Usually I don't like showing the pins until game day, but I got this NBA playoff Hornets 2000 pin. See if we can pick up on the focus. Probably not, but it's pretty dope.
At the end of this, it would have been at the end of the season.
That's right. It would have been. Oh, look at us. Do you think this is like the Power Rangers? We become a Super Hornet? Do we become Super Hugo if we touch our 2000 Hornets memorabilia artifacts? We just what's the monster Voltron? Is that right?
Yeah.
When we just become one? Anyways, that's how I feel. I'm hoping that the Hornets can put out something as scary as Voltron, especially after the Dennis Schroder acquisition. I'm hoping we can get a playoff appearance just like we did in 2000. Now, it might not be solely because of Dennis Schroder, but I'm hoping he helps. I think he will. Doug, I needed an adult to handle the rock in half-court sets and not when Koby White went to the Pine, I needed them to not plummet offensively. That's exactly what happened last year when LaMelo would go to the bench and we'd have to rely on Sion James, or even before Koby White was available, we'd have to rely on Collin Sexton as that backup point guard. Just not a table setter, man. And Dennis Schroder isn't quite a guy that makes everybody better. I don't know if that's his MO, but he's good enough to help you, one, lead the second unit, and two, I think give Koby White enough of a breather to where the offense isn't going to completely plummet when he's out there on the court. There's risk of that, but I think it's certainly a better bet to not have the offense plummet than having Sion as your primary ball handler. We love Sion. It's well documented. We talked about it with the bad experiment with him being the number one out at Summer League. We saw it last year. It's just not, he's not ready. It's just not that time. I don't know if he'll ever be that guy, but he's not right now. There are plenty of other strengths that Sion provides to this team that make him really valuable. This is not one. Christian Anderson, I believe in him one day doing it. I don't believe in him doing it this upcoming season. Not enough if you really want to make a run at a postseason appearance. You can't have Koby White go to the bench and then say, okay, 18th overall pick that needs to eat a cheeseburger and gain 15 pounds. Offense is all yours, buddy. No, that terrifies me. It's simple. You get rid of Tre Mann. Maybe we can discuss the career of Tre in just a moment here in Hornets land. Tre Mann is not somebody that was doing anything for you. You're getting cash too on top of this.
Sweet cash.
I didn't need an all-star. I didn't need an all-star in this trade. We don't have any all-stars in this trade. I don't need that. I just needed somebody that was a responsible adult handling the rock when Koby White would go to the bench, and I feel like we got that in Schroder.
All right, you mentioned the cash. I want to get to that in a second, but first I want to read something from Danny Cunningham, who's the host of Locked On Cavaliers, but he also writes a great Substack, The Inside Shot, all about the Cavaliers, and he wrote this. I was interested to hear his thoughts on the trade, and he wrote this. This isn't a trade that makes the Cavs better. Schroder was a useful player for the Cavs and one that helped them reach the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2018. His performance in Game 5 against the Raptors may have saved the series and the season for the Cavaliers. Schroder brought the Cavs a much-needed ferocity on the court. He played with an edge that was missing at times from the group. What he lacked at times in scoring, he was able to make up in effort and attitude. And he goes on to say that essentially now they are going to have to rely on youth and inexperience to handle the ball, which if you're the Cavaliers is kind of okay because you have superstar talent that can get you through a lot of that awkwardness. The Hornets don't have that. They need adults. They need table setters. They need experience on the ball to allow Con and Brandon to more naturally develop their playmaking skills and not get frustrated by defenses clamping down on them. They need to be facilitated for a little bit more in this stage of their career. So, yeah, man, this was a perfect move. But you mentioned the cash. I did see reports, Walker, that the Hornets were essentially looking for draft compensation back in order to take this money off of the hands to give the apron help to Cleveland. And the Cleveland balked and said, nah, we'll give you a suitcase full of cash. And the Hornets ultimately accepted. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, 100%. It happens all the time. Jeff Peterson has accumulated picks when he shouldn't be doing so with every other trade that he's ever made. It shouldn't be doing so in the sense that the team should not be giving these picks up. Are you telling me we would get the best player in the trade on top of a pick for the third, fourth time? Even with Nurkic going to Utah and Collin Sexton not working out all that well here in Charlotte, I'd still say Collin Sexton is a better NBA basketball player right now than Nurkic, and you got the pick, even if you thought it was relatively even. So even in the Koby White acquisition, you keep an extra second rounder when Chicago absolutely should have gotten a first. Hindsight being 2020, even so. 3 second rounders, terrible trade in hindsight for Chicago. And you even got to hang on to one of the originally agreed upon second round picks because of the injury that Coby was dealing with. He does it every time. I can't get mad at Jeff for not getting a pick and the best player in the trade again. It didn't happen this time, so be it. But I can't get mad at Jeff for doing it, man. Like, it's so funny. Here's Cleveland rightfully not giving up a draft pick, saying, nah, man, you ain't going to sun me like you've sunned so many other general managers.
It's such a great point. The jig is up on Jeff Peterson. All of the GMs are now wise to all of his tricks. And they're done. They're not having it anymore. I love that. But here's the thing. You know, I used to get mad at these kind of acquisitions that would come back with cash, but that was because those versions of the Hornets weren't actively trying to make the team better. This is a move that actively tried to make the team better. So yeah, would have loved a draft pick, but at the same time, I love that they're investing money into the team in terms of his contract. And to me, that signals that they understood the necessity of making a move like this if they're going to make this move and not get the compensation, because they could have just said status quo. We'll go in, we'll try Sion, we'll keep going with Christian Anderson, but they said no, we want to win basketball games this year. Great move.
Let's make more shrewd points on the other side of the break. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Bees everywhere! Schroder as a surname is a godsend for this podcast and Eric Collins. We're all going to beat this to death. And what's nice is that nobody else really gets to lay claim to it because he only plays half a season for every other team. That's kind of the Dennis Schroder experience. Let's talk more about Dennis Schroder and the point guard situation this year compared to last year. Next, LOA.
I hope we get the good half.
Before we move on, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Indeed Sponsored Jobs. When workplace chaos hits and you need the right hire, Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps connect employers with candidates who match specific needs like skills, certifications, location, all that stuff. So less time gets spent searching and more time gets spent finding the right fit. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now. And in the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes, less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this pod. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. More Locked On Hornets ahead. We got an interesting quote from Dennis Schroder here, Doug. According to, I guess, a German newspaper. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to do it. Braunschweiger Zeitung. That's what I'm going to try.
All right.
Maybe a little spicy. Dennis Schroder said this. We can only assume. Charlotte or Hornets read it. They translated it, I guess. I'm going to believe you, Hornets read it. Here's what Schroder said to a German newspaper. Quote, I've known about the trade for a month. I think it's a better situation for me because I can play the way I normally play. Behind James Harden and Donovan Mitchell, you somehow have to be effective in a different way, an extremely difficult role. Kind of, it's not clear what he means, but it doesn't sound like a good thing, of course.
We need an interview with an English newspaper. Just to make sure.
Can you explain that for me, please, here, Dennis? So what are your takes from the comment?
So I like Dennis Schroder in terms of his playmaking ability and his intangibles, the effort, the intensity, the getting in your shirt, the making you upset, the league of extraordinary bleep holes that the Hornets seem to be assembling with Grayson Allen, Grant Williams, on and down the line. I mean, there's just a lot of guys that annoy you on the floor. And that's, for a team that doesn't have superstar talent, that can be a way to win. You're trying to find lanes to win the game, and that can be one of those, is just to get into the head of the other team. Okay, like all of those things. I mentioned this in the solo episode. There is one lane where I see this not working, and that's if Dennis Schroder comes here feeling like this is his opportunity to go full shrewd. I'm going to really set myself up for the next 5 years and my role in the NBA as a powerhouse at the point guard position. Not sure, based on the data that I've seen, that that's going to work out, particularly if he falls in love with his own shot and his own offense. Which again, if I'm going to the quote, I'm thinking, look, if you're behind James Harden and you're behind Donovan Mitchell, not a lot of shots to go around. Those guys are going to take a lot of shots.
Yeah.
So that's where I get a little nervous, but I'm hoping that system, that Hornets DNA, that all of that stuff, when he gets here, all of that stuff will coalesce and they'll find a happy medium to make it all work out.
There's familiarity with Jeff Peterson and Charles Lee going back to all three of their times in Atlanta. So there's the familiarity, which at least gives you the inside track to a path to understanding. You go back to the field goal attempts per game for Dennis Schroder in the previous stops. It would make sense that he had the most in Brooklyn because Brooklyn wasn't a very good basketball team when Schroder was in Brooklyn in 2024 and 2025. And what's funny is that it's not that Schroder moves on to a different team every year, Doug. It's that he does it twice a year. It's that he spends half a season with these teams and then moves on. It's actually quite remarkable. The last full season he spent with the team, as far as I can tell, Lakers in 2022-2023, he played 66 games. And then in 23-24, he played for Toronto and Brooklyn, Golden State, Detroit, Sacramento, Cleveland this past year. So here's the thing. If he goes full shrewd and the Hornets are a little frustrated by whatever is happening in shrewd land in the locker room, we know that the Hornets have zero issue trading a backup point guard that doesn't necessarily work out. It happened with Collin Sexton. It's even happened with Tre Mann. And it's not even that Tre Mann was in any indication a malcontent. My thoughts on Tre.
Everybody loved him.
Everybody loves him because he's just that cool of a guy. And that's why I hate to see it happen this way. But they'll trade Tre Mann if it's not working out for whatever reason. If you are a malcontent in one way, or if in Tre Mann's case, the back injury was a little too much to overcome. He was going through a bunch of personal stuff behind closed doors. It sucks. But even if it's not working out in those ways, they'll move on. And they don't necessarily subscribe to this sunk cost fallacy. Oh, man, we traded for him. We got to hold on to him and try to squeeze out as much value as possible. No, the value's not there. Fine, move on. It's okay. You got cash. You still netted cash at the very least. So I'm with you on that. It's the thing to go to. It's not a great sign that every team that trades for him moves on from him in half a year, but also this is the perfect situation for him. And if he thinks that he should have a bigger role, maybe there's even like some kind of threading of the needle that they can find this happy medium, because there is a role that's pretty important for him to play, even if it's not going to be the Koby White role. So maybe it all, works out hunky-dory here in the Queen City.
When the Hornets brought in Collin Sexton, they didn't have a single player that could just put their head down and get to the rim. And so when he came here and he did just that, it was a revelation of the offense. Like it was a really good thing. But yeah, the chemistry wasn't there, and they knew to achieve the things that they wanted to achieve, everybody had to be, all the boats had to be going in the same direction, right? And so they opted to make a move. Now, back to the point that we made in the first segment, though, if GMs, and we said it joking, I kind of said it half jokingly. I wasn't it wasn't a full joke for me that like maybe GMs are starting to wise up a little bit and aren't as willing to deal with Jeff in the way that they've dealt with Jeff in the past. And so if that's the case, I do get a little nervous that he's going to get to the trade deadline and try to move, if things do go wrong with Schroder behind the scenes and he tries to move him, that maybe they'll find it a little bit more difficult to get off the money. Because I think I'm not exactly sure on the second year contract details. I think like after this season he becomes immensely more tradable, but and maybe still is because that money will be not as guaranteed in the second year. So maybe the advantage still is with the Hornets to make that move at the deadline. But you would have to then, ideally you would be in the same position you were last season, which is kind of sort of still in the hunt, and you would want to make a move to improve. Could they do that? How many times can you do this where you flip a player and get better? I don't know. But it again, it's all that to say, like, it still is nice, to your point, to go into the season with a point guard that knows what to do with the basketball. It's going to help Con and help Brandon. And maybe by the time you get to the deadline, Con has already showed those flashes. Brandon has already showed those flashes of like, hey, I'm ready to do a little bit of everything. And then you look at it and say, maybe we don't need Schroder as much as we thought we needed him at the beginning of the season. A lot of different ways this can play out. I'm just glad the Hornets are actually playing. They're letting it play out. They're giving themselves an opportunity to succeed.
It goes, if you're asking about the big picture philosophy for the Hornets, so many people thought that the Hornets didn't necessarily care about winning all that much this upcoming season when they traded LaMelo. And you got worse in that trade. That's why you got all the picks. That's why you got the swaps. Even if you got Naz Reid, who I think is a very good NBA basketball player, there's a reason that you're getting all of the assets in that one. You got worse. On the other hand, it's the only move to me that indicates that the Hornets were okay in getting worse in that trade via the future draft capital. They did not get worse with the Suns trade. They're not getting worse here going after Dennis Schroder. This is very much so a team that is still, to me, trying to get to the playoffs and see what they can do. And we can get to the Hoop Collective over-under on, what they have projected for this Hornet squad. It's not all that big of a difference from what the Hornets actually accomplished last year and what the over-under says they're going to accomplish this upcoming season, because they continue to win all these other moves outside of trading LaMelo Ball. That going into the point guard situation, let's go back and forth on this before we move on to the next segment here, Doug. Koby White's your starter. Last year, he was your high-end backup, immensely important player, one of the most important shots in the Hornets history, especially since they came back. Koby's your starter now, making a decent amount of money. We know all of his strengths. We've broken down his game quite a bit. Schroder now, I don't know if he's Koby White, but he is a capable backup point guard. The fit, I would say, isn't seamless with the Charles Lee identity, right? Takes a lot of mid-range jumpers. He does attack the rim a little bit. He's always been a guy that gets to the restricted area more so than your average point guard. He doesn't shoot very well when he gets there, but at least you're providing some pressure. I'm totally fine in what Schroder does there, shooting about 55 to 58% in the restricted zone. So I'm cool with that. The turnover percentage from Schroder this past season, if you look at it as he gets a little older, not great with Cleveland, but overall it was sitting at about 12%, something like that. That's in the 50th percentile. Takes care of the basketball relatively well, probably about average at it. But the assist per usage, Doug, and just the assist percentage overall, that's gone up as he's aged in his career. So that I like seeing. It's not a seamless fit with the Charles Lee system, but it's enough of a fit for me to give the thumbs up on the Dennis Schroder experience. Christian Anderson, it allows you to put him in Greensboro so he can get on-ball reps when you don't need him on the big boy squad. Maybe you can just, bring him along at your own pace on the big boy squad if you still need that third point guard on the roster. You compare this point guard situation to last year's, Doug, when he had big, bad LaMelo Ball, the best player. If you were to put all these guys in a room, it's clearly LaMelo. How are you feeling about the one spot this year compared to last season?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously worse offensively, but it's better defensively. It's I think more. Yeah, I go back to that word that Danny used about Schroder, ferocity. I think both from the perspective of Koby White being able to get inside and at the rim and finish and draw fouls, but also Dennis Schroder and his defensive ability. It's in your face. So, yeah, I think it's more in your face. I think it's more intense. I think it's defensively better, offensively worse, which, again, if you're banking on Knueppel and Brandon Miller development, offsetting that, then it will be okay. If those two guys don't, come full flower, then, yeah, it's going to look like a pretty bad move.
I would also say when you're looking at some of these teams that Schroder has played with, like the point per shot attempt, sorry, going back to Schroder for a second, points per shot attempt isn't great. It wasn't amazing in Atlanta either when he was in the prime of his career at Atlanta and OKC, but it was just a tick below average. Maybe you get to average once you include that last OKC season. I would also say those other squads don't have as much spacing as this team is expected to, where he's able to get to the spots that he cooks, right? You go to Toronto in 2023, 2024, that team has been devoid of spacing for quite some time. You're talking about Brooklyn for, 60 games, 55 games. Brooklyn, not a team that was real serious about playing basketball. Golden State, he played 24 games, so maybe not enough of a sample. Detroit in 24-25 was a part of the postseason appearance, but Detroit, no spacing, that's not their thing, right? They like to clog the paint. Sacramento and Cleveland, also not the best spacing teams. I think Dennis is going to benefit from the spacing here. One, because everybody does, especially as a penetrator, but also especially him getting to the rack quite a bit. I would bet if we're making bets on what he'll do, I bet Schroder has a higher rim accuracy rate this season than he has in quite some time. I bet he flirts with 60% at the cup this season, which would be a higher mark than he's posted in quite a long time.
I'm here for it. And you've got the connection with the young guys, Steinbach, Christian Anderson. He was watching them in 2025 play in the U19 team for the German Nationals. So, you've got that connection too. You got the connection with Peterson. Look, everything is lined up for this thing to succeed. It could go wrong, but everything at present is lined up for it to succeed.
Yeah, let's provide a few more points on this. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Speed everywhere! Wrapping up point guard situation talk, moving into the over-under and what Brian Windhorst and I guess Tim McMahon, Band McMahon on Twitter, what do they have to say about the Hornets' projected win total? We'll get to all of that coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Wayfair. Whether you're refreshing one room, getting ready for a new season, or finally replacing the piece of furniture you've been putting off, Wayfair makes it easy to find something that fits your home, your style, and your budget. You can shop furniture and decor across a wide range of price points with quality materials and pieces designed to stand up to real life. And with Wayfair Verified, product specialists hand vet select products through a 10-point quality inspection, looking at things like materials, functionality, features, and even how long they take to build. And if you're still trying to narrow down what to buy, Wayfair gives you plenty of real shopper feedback to work with. You can browse more than 20 million verified 5-star reviews, along with real customer photos and feedback to help you shop with more confidence. Join Wayfair Rewards today to get 5% back on every purchase and start saving on your next home upgrade. Head to wayfair.com to shop all things home. That's Wayfair, wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. More Locked On Hornets ahead. I think we can tie these 2 points together. So let's go to what Hoop Collective was discussing with the projected over-under with the Hornets this upcoming season. It was Brian Windhorst and Tim McMahon talking about this, both of ESPN. And Tim McMahon said the Hornets made those trades to say, look, we're not on the verge of something big now. We want to build around these young guys, and they were willing to take a step back to try to give themselves a long-term higher ceiling. But I do think it's a step back from 44 wins last year. Now, this is again on the projected win total being 39.5, according to ESPN.com. Man, you start to think about that. They won 44 games after an amazing second half to the season with their all-NBA point guard still on the roster, all-NBA caliber point guard on the roster in LaMelo Ball. And you move on to this season where I think they got better in a lot of areas, but there's the one glaring downgrade that you have at point guard, as much as I love Koby White. And there's only a 4-win difference in the projected win total. If the models resemble anything that the Hornets had going on at the Spectrum Center, then you can understand why they would make this trade. I have been discussing how maybe they can make up some ground in the first half of this upcoming season compared to last year where they lost all the games due to, lack of health and whatever it, may be. But you look at the point guard situation, and Doug, that's the biggest difference without having LaMelo on this roster. But it is kind of interesting that LaMelo goes out the door, and then you have Grayson Allen, Naz Reid, Koby White with increased minutes, Hannes Steinbach, Christian Anderson, Dennis Schroder. I guess this might have happened before Dennis Schroder, but either way, only a 4-win difference. How surprised are you to see the ESPN projected win total?
It was funny to listen to, because before he said that, Tim McMahon said, the Hornets, they won 44 games, the most they've won since they went to the playoffs, and then they traded their best player. And I said, well, when you put it like that, it sounds bad.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, I think the organization looked at that second half run that you were talking about, and they tried to get honest with themselves and say, how much of that was real? And I think the Orlando loss illuminated that for them. And Jeff Peterson talked about, with Anscape, talked about how that loss stuck with him. And I think when you lose like that to Orlando, when you get punked like that, when you get physically beaten down like that, I think it does make you take a look at some of what happened in the second half and go, how much of that was the Hornets really had something, and how much of it was the Hornets were playing a lot of teams that were tanking for the last time that they had the opportunity to tank in that way, and they were just racking up a lot of those wins because they were healthy, not because they were on the verge of something elite. And so, yeah, if you want to call it a step back, I think that's fair to say, because what the Hornets have right now is a lot of prove it. A lot of prove it. I mean, Knueppel's got to prove it. Brandon Miller's got to prove it. Koby White back in the starter role. He's got to prove it. Dennis Schroder's got to prove it. There is so much prove it on this team, but they also have a lot more depth. And so your whole season doesn't hinge on one player as much as it did in years past. And so, I want to think positive and think that this is really a sidestep and not a step back, but you can't lose a talent offensively that gave you so much in the plus-minus categories like LaMelo Ball and not say that it was a step back. Now, record-wise, so they said 40 or 39?
Well, ESPN, 39.5, I guess, right?
39.5. Well, let's just say it was 40, okay? If they did get 40 wins, that would be the first time that they've had back-to-back 40-win seasons since? I'll take a guess.
Does it exist the Bobcats days, or does it even exist in this second phase of the franchise?
Yeah, 2001, 2002, and 2000, 2001. I'm still waiting on that media guide.
Perfect.
So that I can fully bask in it. That's the last time since they were first in Charlotte before they left for New Orleans. They haven't done it. So honestly, if you're thinking, oh, woe is me, they're saying the Hornets are going to take step back, I'll take that step back any day of the week. I mean, back-to-back 40-win season, that's almost as good as a 50-win season. It's not 50 wins. I'm still waiting on that.
Yeah.
That's the crown jewel. I would pay $40 for a 50-win season, okay, folks?
Yeah.
But back-to-back 40-win seasons, they didn't even do that. I mean, going into the 15-16 season, in 14-15, they won 33. That was a disaster year. Then 48 wins in the 15-16 season, followed that up with 36. So even if they got 39, They haven't even gotten close to that since 15, 16, 16, 17. So, I mean, come on. Like, I'll take that step back any day of the week.
Yet, and last thing, I think you talked about this, the comments from Charles Lee when he was in studio with Mac and Bone. But, man, I thought those were strong comments. I didn't get a chance to comment on those myself. But when he says, I think the Hornets got better, and obviously change is going to be tough for some people, but overall the mindset is how do we just keep moving this thing in the right direction. Talks about how the Carolinas deserve a good basketball product. But really, if you just want to highlight, I think the Hornets got better. That's a lot. There are ways for Charles Lee to dodge that sentiment. And I do wonder just how much he really thinks the Hornets got better with everything that they did. And, of course, he talked about riding with Coby. This season really lies a lot within how you feel about Koby White as a starting point guard in this league. And depending on what you land up with there, I think you land, up or you end up with what the Hornets are actually going to do this upcoming season.
So I've been playing a lot of chess. I talk about it occasionally on the show. I play it on every Hornets box score and stream it live and talk about the Hornets. And what I'm learning about the game is that it's all great to have one, if you have like a main plan of attack, like here's my strategy, here's my opening, and I want to attack the king this way. Okay. That's all well and good. But there's another player that has their plans, and their plans are crashing up against your plans. So the smart player will have that plan of attack in their mind, but really the name of the game is don't lose your pieces and put your best pieces in the center of the board, because then that opens up multiple ways to win the game. And so that's what I think the Hornets have done here. They've offered themselves more ways to win the game, because really, if you look at last season, they needed lots and lots of three-point shooting. Like everybody had to be on fire, and they needed LaMelo Ball to be miracle LaMelo Ball, go into the phone booth and come out and be Superman. So that's great, but I think defensively they've opened up a lot more lanes for them to win a game, playmaking-wise, getting to the rim, getting fouled. I just think there's so many more ways they can win basketball games. They've still got to stay healthy. They still have to have immense development from their young guys. It's a prove-it year. There are a lot of ifs. Maybe more so even than last year when you had a guy in LaMelo Ball who was a proven product. But at the same time, I think there are going to be more lanes to win, and that should be exciting, and I think that's what the Hornets are banking on.
That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods. That includes YouTube. Go check out the Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Both Doug and Evan contribute to it. Evan Hale helping produce every single episode behind the scenes. And I'm Walker Mehl. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Sports Radio, 92.7 FM. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.
See ya.